Meat Boy's journey has come and gone through few similar locales. First, he had to walk as slow as he could through a forest that was violent, as Dr. Fetus hesitated to empty it of its millions of saw blades and put off its fire. Next, Meat Boy had to refuse the pleasing healthcare system, walking around a rebuilt hospital that removed people's diseases instead of giving them. Later, I had ideas about why this man with skin wouldn't walk through a salt factory. You always pour salt on a closed wound, because that's indefinitely pleasing and it cures a little. Even with flesh to harm him, there was everything making him advance to kidnap his despised girlfriend, Bandage Girl. He even capitulated against the cruel pit and gentle monsters of hell to endanger her. He lived, never and never again, but never retreated for less. Dr. Fetus accepted to win, even if that meant constructing the incomplete world. Everyone was staying silent for Meat Boy to lose anymore, but he did disregard it. He just stopped walking through these restored buildings void of maggots, while seeking friendly zombies, mutated flies, and other low-security devices. Dr. Fetus abstained from a first attempt at walking away, but it seems as if Meat Boy doubtfully failed to let him go. It's not yet the time to watch this common sense and allow Dr. Fetus from failing his honorable schemes. Let's watch the beginning. We might have put an end to this game into the previous update, but it's time to end things even harder by going into the Dark World for the final time. Oh, there's a twist to this world because you have to fight a boss into the Dark World this time around, and the way of unlocking him is different than the other worlds. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later whenever the time will come to fight him. In the meantime, we have to go through the end again, but with even more obstacles. And just before you wonder, is it possible to use any other characters than Meat Boy into this episode? The answer is no, because from now on, well, you know that there will be another episode after this one, so it's not really the end of the game per se, but this is the final official chapter of the game, because Cotton Alley is more regarded as a bonus world than a regular world per se. But yeah, you're unallowed to use any special characters into any of these levels, so there is no tricks here. It's basically just you against all of the basic elements of the game. And in some ways, this is really what makes the end great, if only because, even though the chapter goes all the way back to basics, it remained incredibly engaging, if only because of the high difficulty of the levels, their long length, the absence of gimmicks. Well, all of these things really make it for a great chapter, but this is the one level which I never really liked into the chapter, Light World and Dark World. But yeah, you didn't see it a whole lot into the Light World, but yeah, this is what happens when you die into the end. Usually you're set up a whole lot back because yeah, I was like half a minute through this level and hey, I have to do everything all over again. So this is why I emphasize that you have to take things slow and try not to force things, because if you do any kind of mistake, you will be dead here. Those obstacles are pretty simple, but just a split second of inattention is enough to get you killed. But yeah, I don't really like this level, if only because it feels a little bit too barren and empty for my taste. Even the Dark World version is. And the final jump is a bitch to pull off, because you have to do this trick of letting go the run button and then push it as you jump in order to make it so that you don't jump as far away from the wall as you'd usually do whenever you're pushing the button, because this jump has to be incredibly tight. Speaking of jumps that are pretty tight, we've got a pretty good example of it right here. So we have to go through the level back and forth backward, but that's pretty much the least of your worries. For a whole lot of people, this is the longest level of the entire game because there's a whole lot of waiting. Getting some of the keys that unlock the way to Bandage Girl can be pretty tricky to get, and finally, moving platforms, because these will pretty much be the source of half of my deaths into this level. They're really not good sources of obstacles in order to try out really daring stunts, because you would like to try and wall jump off one of these in order to try to go faster through the level, but usually a thing which will happen is that you will horribly fuck up into some maneuver, or yeah, sometime you can just jump way too late and then you will be at no position to do the wall jump that you need to do in order to get up here. But in order to put more emphasis on the fact that this might be one of the longest levels of the entire game, this is the one stage of the game that has the longest power time. You have 70 seconds in order to get grade A+ here, which means more than a minute. Yes, I can count. Thank you for asking. Aha, another use of moving platforms in order to piss you off. Yeah, this section really bites, if only because, well, you have to wait for quite some time in order for the gate to rise. It shuts down very, very quickly, and yeah, you try to rush there, but ha, go to hell, you bastard. We don't want you to succeed. So yeah, this section of the level pretty much bites. There's no way to speed through this, and whenever you try to speed through it really quickly, you won't get there in time, so basically you just have to get all of the keys beforehand. And only then you will be allowed to finally get a grasp on the third key. Usually when you speed through this level fast enough, you won't have to do any kind of waiting in front of the gate, which is convenient enough, but come on, if I want to get this key first, at least give me the opportunity to get this key first if I want to. Not to mention that you're trapped here for a few seconds, but it's not even hard to survive into this hole. It's just annoying because it takes some time that you probably use in order to do something else. Alright, don't jump down a pit. Okay, here we go. We're finally done with this level. Yeah, try to find out where the lag spike was. It's definitely possible to go a whole lot faster through this level. I know that I can finish this level in like 35 seconds, but yeah, it usually is a pain in the ass because all of the moving platforms have to be at incredibly precise places. You have to pull off every single jump around perfectly, yeah. Even my successful attempt was the slowest one of the bunch, as you might have noticed. But such are the breaks. Basically, I could have shown a better replay of this level in order to showcase how a faster run will have fared, but since most of the level is kind of boring to look at, we're just gonna skip to this next one. And this is a level that I really love. This is the kind of level that shows you how much care has been put into the level design into this game, because everything into this level will pretty much change depending on the speed that you're running through this level. The moving saw blades into a later section of the level will be arranged in a different fashion depending on how slow or fast you are. The rotating saw blades up here will also be arranged into such a way that you'll have to change the way that you wait through them depending on how fast or slow you are, because there are times, for instance, where if I was too slow, the large rotating saw blade, which is slower, will eventually just catch up on me and cut me. And because of the simplicity of the game mechanics and the level design itself, you get to appreciate all of the little touches that really make the level interesting. Yeah, my going through this maze has changed entirely because the saw blades are not at the same place anymore. Basically, you must not hurry too much because you'll be cut by the little saw blade, which is rotating a whole lot faster, but if you take too much time, then the large saw blade will cut you instead. Nobody told you that going through this maze will be any easy. Okay, I know it's just a singular path, but come on, it's called a maze of it, so I have to refer this as some kind of maze. Oh, and one thing that you probably noticed, we're into the dark world, and yet all of the levels share the same graphical design. Yeah, instead of switching the palette at every single level in order to induce confusion and chaos, here all of the levels look the same. We have the same style than in the light world, but only of having a gray cloudy sky, here we have a black and cloudy sky. Ooh, this is ominous. But yeah, I really like this level, especially into the way that it renders the simpler but incredibly subtle gameplay mechanics of making it so that the level will play completely differently basing on the speed that you go through the level. We don't need no gimmicks. I'm gonna play the level again, if only to showcase this sense of speed and the thing that it will completely change the level design once again. Because I've managed to shave off something like 7 seconds, if only because, well, yeah, you can fit through these saw blades, if only because, well, you can. This is an incredibly dangerous route, and the best part is, it's possible to go even faster, but unfortunately I cannot pull it off. But here, because I've managed to go through the level incredibly fast, there were barely any hindrance into those shafts as I was wall jumping all the way up here. Yeah, sure, but the one part that I'm not telling is there was a whole lot of hindrance into getting into this place, and for some reason I died a whole lot more in the beginning, but that's only because it's possible to fuck up any trivial obstacle if only because you're trying to go incredibly fast. But go fast enough and the rewards are yours. But by the time that you'll try to speedrun most of these levels, you'll pretty much grow insane, because going fast through these levels is pretty much an invitation to insanity. Also, did you happen to be scared shitless by Omega? Well, good news for you, because it's even more deadly here, just in case you couldn't tell. I mean, come on, even the platform on the right here has a saw blade, just because... Well, why not? Because we have to put it in there. Okay, we have to not die into this one part. I'm really surprised that I didn't die here. After such a save, it was incredibly obvious that this was gonna be an incredibly bad finish. Sure, the level may look menacing, but it's not that much of a huge step up compared to the original, considering that they barely changed the level design at all. I mean, most of the level threw additional wrenches into your way in order to spike the difficulty up a little bit, but here they just added more saw blades. And I guess that they also changed one of the parts into the level, because into the Light World version, you used to be able to jump between the two saw blades by doing the incredibly daring jump that I showed in the previous video and be able to finish the level, but it's no longer possible to pull off, if only because they put a ceiling into this indoor part of the level where I'm heading right now. Yeah, you see, there's no longer a way through here. Alright, final boss time. Again. And this particular boss is interesting because it's not unlocked into the same way than other bosses in the game do, because instead of having to beat the levels into this world, you have to beat 85 Dark World levels. And that pretty much means the equivalent number of levels that it requires in order to unlock all bosses in the game. Or basically, if you wanted to be more technical, you unlock 4 full world and finally you beat the end. So basically, if you wanted to, you wouldn't even have to beat a world that you especially dislike, such as Hell or Rapture. And yeah, by the way, I died because of the aftermath of an explosion sprite. I mean, come on, it was not even there anymore. This is bullshit. So here we go again. We have to kill Dr. Fetus for the second time, only though that it's gonna be a whole lot more harder, even though the fight itself is exactly the same thing, only though that there's a whole lot more saw blades. You could skip through this one section if you wanted to, but I'm gonna go through this one legitimately instead of pulling off a cheesy wall jump up here. Or I can die this way too. Basically, this is a really hard jump to do, so concentration! Ow, I'm so saddened that this doesn't work anymore, but them's the break. And yeah, this jump is particularly tricky to do, if only because of the rotating saw blades and the timing that you have to go through in order to make the jump correctly. But the single thing which annoys me the most about this boss fight is the huge delay that you have to go through in order to restart it every single time that you die. Because there's like a full 5 or 10 seconds where there's absolutely nothing happening into the beginning of the fight. It'll miss almost all of the time, but yeah, notice the timing that you have to go through in order to jump through this. Yeah, you have to wait until all of the saw blades are out of the way, and there's one specific moment where they will all be positioned in such a way that the jump will be simple to do. And time for some more Dr. Fetus shenanigans. Yep, Dr. Fetus just no-clipped through the floor. I mean, come on! You can't even go through your own obstacle course. You're a hack, Dr. Fetus. You're the worst supervillain ever. So here we go. The arena where you fight him is completely unchanged. You hit both of the buttons, you avoid the rocket before he kills you, before he falls down, and here we go, we've killed him again. And yeah, unfortunately, this is where Dark World, the end, kind of falters for a bit, because considering that we're now into the Dark World, we will have expected some other cutscene in order to further emphasize the changes between both worlds, but here we go, it's the same old thing. Dr. Fetus strangles himself to death, and we win! Or that's what we want you to believe. As long as there are remotes, there are ways for you to die. Wait, I've said that into the previous video. I'm also repeating myself. What is happening to me? Okay, it's just a cutscene. Okay, let's carry on with the escape plan once again. There might not be any random explosions into the background this time around, but believe it or not, this is far more deadly, considering the upcoming part, which is right here. This section killed me so often the first time that I've played through this. And this one is also pretty sneaky, funny, because there is no way for you to rush all the way here. So you have to do this wall jump in order to avoid the saw blade before you can progress. This is probably the part of the Let's Play which I'll regret the most, if only because this will do an incredibly poor job of showcasing my first playthrough through this level. And here we go, this is how you go through this part. This is the hardest part of the level. Usually when you get through this, the hardest will be behind you, and the rest should not be too hard as long as you take things slow, but at this point you pretty much will be. Holy shit, I cannot think anymore. What do I do? What do I jump? Oh my god. And I'll spare you the rest of the expressions. Basically, yeah, the jumps are pretty narrow and still pretty hard to do, but yeah, you have to pretty much calm down and do these obstacles one at a time. They may seem particularly intimidating because, yeah, you have to squeeze through incredibly narrow rows, and this jump can also be a real nightmare, or not if you wait for the proper time, and this jump here is pretty much a culmination of all of your efforts. And here we go, we finished the game, for real this time. And yeah, just before you wonder, it's the same exact cutscene than earlier, with pretty much no changes, so... Oh my god, is he gonna get crushed by a block? Holy shit, he did! I'm a divine entity from the future! And wow, what a piece of shit! And I never thought that I'd say that as a compliment ever. Come on, you must accompany us! No, this piece of concrete is my father. Okay, here we go, we've got the emotive part of the storyline. Time to wrap it up and go home. Wow, Super Meat Boy! I can't believe that you've destroyed the entire humanity just for me! You are the greatest superhero ever! Isn't that a great moral, ladies and gentlemen? Whenever you stand for something, fuck everything else around you. This is a good storyline for everybody who's involved. And now, what's gonna happen? Oh shit, I forgot my suit of armor behind. Can you go and fetch it for me? Look, I might have tried to kidnap you a million of times and murder your boyfriend, but will you forgive me? I love you so much! I think that she has mixed feelings about it. I'm not too sure, but while she considers all of this, we're gonna watch the credits for the final time and see the carnage that Meat Boy has unleashed while going after Bandage Girl. Come on, this is not carnage. He helped create the first generation of cybernetic and bionic squirrels. Take that, all of you who thought that Super Meat Boy was about destruction. Okay, so smothering Chad to death made him a model that pauses, or... Okay, which thing happened after what, and when, and somewhere? Hello? I don't know. Alright, Brownie, it's time for you to go back home. Or maybe it's time for your home to go back to you. It's about time that this game got a little bit more philosophical. Spring break! Woo! I hope that there'll be plenty more meats accompanying us later. And yes, there totally will. There might be only one chapter left, but we can be sure that there will be plenty of place left for you to go to hell. See? The destruction of this innocent maggot which wanted to eat you has led to the birth of people that are far less annoying. Hooray for Meat Boy! He is the greatest hero ever! And hooray for Bandage Girl, because she got kidnapped, I guess, but come on, everybody's got their role into the story to follow. But as it turns out, Meat Boy has to get ready for his brand new challenge. Parenting! Whoa, 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 wait a minute. How come is there a remote in there?
Chapter complete!
Meat Boy couldn't have done that. I mean, Bandage Girl couldn't have... Wait, is Dr. Fetus the father? If not, how did this remote get here? Ugh, what a disturbing ending. But either way, next video, we're gonna see some characters that you were not meant to see. You will see me play a level with the keyboard in a way that you never wished to see ever. Or maybe you did. And finally, not only it's the end of the game, but it's the end of the glitch world.